There was a clip that President Trump's response team at the White House put out over the weekend that I thought it was fabulous, because the left keeps going down like Elon Musk is doing all this bad stuff and Congress needs to do this. And so they reminded us that apparently President and Biden and Obama had some thoughts on cutting government waste too. Take a look at the clip.
Budget reform is not an option. It's a necessity.
The American people are entitled to transparency.
We can't sustain a system that bleeds billions of taxpayer dollars on programs that have outlived their usefulness or exist solely because of the power of politicians, lobbyists, or interest groups.
They're entitled to be able to figure out where their dollars are going, and they're entitled to accountability to make sure that we're using the dollars for what we said it was for.
We are going to go through our federal budget, as I promised during the campaign, page by page, line by line, eliminating those programs we don't need and insisting that those that we do need operate in a sensible, cost-effective way.
What should be easy is getting rid of the pointless waste and stupid spending that doesn't benefit anybody.
We hope to be instilling an entire new culture that not only our administration, but every succeeding administration will in fact pursue.
No amount of waste is acceptable, not when it's your money.
We all know that government can be inefficient. We all know that the bureaucracy can be bloated.
There we go. So, I mean, it's just funny. First of all, it's actually funny to see Joe Biden at a stage in life when he can string a sentence together.
Isn't it?
I had forgotten that. But it's funny how, like, when they did it, it was, now, first of all, they didn't do it. And that's part of the problem, is that they talked about it and didn't do it. Then it wasn't a big deal. And that's what I think is interesting. And there's a clip. I'll just show you this because it got put out. I retweeted it if anyone's interested on it. But there's a thing of Clinton Gore, 41 minutes. I will play like a few seconds just so you get a flavor of this. But like, here they are. Same thing. Remember Al Gore reinventing government? They were very close. Take a look at the clip here.
The people demand and deserve an active government on their side. But they don't want a government that wastes money, a government that costs more and does less. They voted for change. They wanted a literal revolution in the way government operates, and now you and I must deliver. Yesterday, I announced the reorganization of the White House staff that will reduce our staff by 25% and cut costs by $10 million per year. Today, I have called you, the members of the Cabinet, together to take the next step, to begin the overhaul of government as a whole. The steps we're taking today will save the American taxpayers $9 billion. They won't be easy, but they will make a difference. We have an obligation and an opportunity to change the way government works and to show that government can do more with less.
All right. Look, the point is, when I think the irony is, of course, they never did it. But the irony is, look, DOGE put out a tweet this weekend about all of the stuff that they've been canceling. $10 million for Mozambique, $9.7 for UC Berkeley to develop a cohort of Cambodian youth with enterprise-driven skills. $2.3 million for strengthening independent voices in Cambodia. I'm sure that's some kind of DEI. Yeah. $32 million to the Prague Civil Center. $40 million for gender equality and women empowerment hub there, which I'm disappointed. I was looking forward to that. I'm sure that, but it's just amazing to me. Like, this isn't a conservative thing. These guys are all wigged out. Like, if I were a Democrat, I'd be saying, you know what? I appreciate President Trump doing that. I'm like, sometimes jump with us and then say, but pick a policy you don't like. The notion that these guys are so offended by the head of the government going through and saying, here's the inefficiencies. We all do it in our daily budget. When we've had to squeeze our wallets at difficult times, you go through and you say, hey, we've got too many subscriptions. My colleague on the morning meeting the other day, Dan Turntine, said, hey, we went through the family budget. We realized we had 4 subscriptions to Netflix. Like, why is this? I can't believe that Democrats are dumb enough to be on the wrong side of this issue.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like the saying, your actions speak so loudly, I cannot hear what you say. And that's right. When I look at Obama and I look at Clinton saying that kind of stuff, I'm like, I don't think they ever meant it. Now they're all these people on the left are freaking out because Trump is doing what those people were incapable of doing. And I think that pisses them off even more, is they know that he is capable and he can do it. He's going to do it. And he has a mandate from the American people. That's why we voted him in. I wanted him to do it the last term and he didn't get a chance to do it, So it's like he's finally doing all the things that he promised he would do. And man, I am ready to just tear the deep state down, like tear it all down. So
well, and you might know this more because you were in DC. I mean, you were an insider, Sean, but
that's not nice. That's not nice.
I'm not saying that in a mean way, but I'm just saying I feel like there's long been sort of this uniparty that had this silent agreement that yes, it sounds great to voters to say we're going to be more accountable and have all this transparency and cut spending. It sounds great. We're all going to get on board. But the difference here is that Elon and Trump are doing it, and that is shaking up both sides of the aisle. The Republicans are they're more afraid of criticizing, right? Because they want to stay on Trump's good side. But everybody is in sort of this panic mode right now where they're like, holy crap, things are actually happening that we've long talked about, but never meant we were going to do. And now they're doing it.
And then you have people like Maxine Waters, who are like, we don't know what they have on us. I mean, we know when people protest this much to a freaking audit, like, look at those people. We're all looking at those people.
You don't need to look there. You don't need to look there. There's nothing there. We're fine.
Right. And this is the thing. When you protest it, like, you need to look at those people who are screaming the loudest about, we don't want this, and he's stealing your information. Elon is not stealing anybody's information.
No, he's in the government.
Right. He's the richest man in the world. And like I said the other day on our show, I was like, what's he going to do? Like steal your identity, go into a Best Buy and buy an iPhone? I mean, it's the dumbest logic. And when they say these people weren't elected, we could give you a list. We could give you scrolls and scrolls of people that we've not elected. Right.
The White House chief of staff wasn't elected. The chief of staff to every congressman wasn't elected. That's why we elect people than to hire people to execute. That's the dumbest argument I've ever heard.
It is, but they're using it.
But also, like, why are you? I think that this goes back to the point that Mock is saying, that like they're like, oh crap, I know that I added to this, and I'm afraid that you're going to call me out. Like, you don't look there, and that's the issue. But this to me is like, look, you saw the Clinton clips. There were some gore ones in that clip. If people want to, it's 41 minutes long of them saying all that, and then the Obama and the Biden. I think of this like, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong, because I just thought of my own personal analogy. Like, my mom would come in and was like, kid, clean your room. Clean your room. I said, clean your room. And then at some point she'd go, if you don't clean it, I'm just going to throw everything out. And I was like, okay, now I got to get together. And I feel like that's where we are in this country. You guys have abused it. We've said we were going to clean up government. We said we were going to clean up government. And then finally Elon's like, look, I'm just going to throw it all out then. And we'll figure it out, because this is like, that's where we are.
Isn't it crazy to see people on the left defending the people who have stolen from them and abused them for years? It's total Stockholm syndrome. Like, what is wrong with you?
Have you met one person, in your lives, because you guys both live in separate places, that don't agree with this attempt to go through government? One?
No regrets.
No, I don't know a single person. And they'll say, oh, do you regret your vote yet? What are you talking about?
Well, no, this is exactly what we voted for.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, keep going. I said that we did the speech, like I said, I did the speech in Idaho to a Republican group, and I stopped halfway through and I said, can we just applaud Elon Musk? Because if he wasn't, because in all seriousness, everyone wants to hate on the guy. But the reality is that if it wasn't, and I mean this like as an extension of President Trump, because President Trump empowered him to do it, as he does in so many other areas with people that he points, is he said, go for it, Elon. You know how to do this. Go for it. If it wasn't President Trump and Elon Musk doing this, we would be still spending, $14 million for improving public procurement in Serbia and $486 million to the consortium for elections and political process strengthening. Including, by the way,
don't forget the transgender and the transgender.
Also, no, but I do want to note this, because this is going to be a shame that this has gone $22 million for inclusive and participatory political process in Moldova. That's going to hurt.
Super upset about that.
Yeah, super upset. All right. Point of personal privilege here. I don't think in my life I've said it, and I probably won't say it again, but I want people to. There's a Washington Post story that came out over the weekend on Saturday. And I want to just explain to you guys the process here. So a month and a half ago, I write this op-ed for the New York Post saying, hey, Biden kicked me off of the Naval Academy Board. We sued Biden at the time because We didn't think it was right. And we wanted him to go to court and argue that they had absolute power to fire anybody. That was the goal. I was fired in September. My term ended in November. So there was no legal way I was ever getting back on. No one saw it. No one appreciated at the time what the actual goal was. Well, we ended up losing the case because Biden went through the appeals process, arguing that the president had the absolute authority to fire everybody. So Spicer v. Biden is now in law, or as court precedent that says this. So when the Kennedy Center folks get fired, right, the spokesperson for the Kennedy on the record says to the Washington Post, when they asked, well, are you guys going to fight back, says, we can't. Spicer v. Biden set the precedent. And all of a sudden I get a call from the Washington Post and the guy says, what do you think? And I said, look, I can't walk away from the TV because I think I'm going to miss something with President Trump, but I didn't see exactly the Kennedy Center comments. And so he's like, well, you didn't hear about this. And I said, no. So then the next day, the reporter calls me back because he puts my quote in that story about how I was happy that they got fired. And the reporter goes, I read all the court documents. And I said, okay. And he goes, you were right. And I said, of course. He goes, this is much bigger than I appreciated. So they wrote this front page style section thing about how because of Spicer v. Biden, Trump can now fire everyone. But here's the thing that I think was fascinating to me. And I was on a plane long enough yesterday that I was, the equivalent of how when you hate watch like MSNBC,
yeah.
Like I hate scrolled. So I looked at the comments. I normally don't. But all these people are like, two wrongs don't make a right. How petty of Sean Spicer. I'm like, wait, petty? Biden fired all of the Service Academy nominees for the first time in history. Okay, who was the petty one? All I did was make him go to court and said he had the authority to do that. And now they're pissed at President Trump and me that he has the authority to do what Biden said he could do.
Right. I know.
Yeah, but this is the thing about the left. They're mad at me because Biden fired me and I was supposed to just roll over. Like, I get it. Most Republicans don't have a backbone and won't fight. But I was like, hey, let's sue him. And I'm the bad guy in this? I'm sorry. I don't get that.
It's a great story, especially if from the outset you were like, I'm going to sue him because I know I will lose.
Right.
Like, that's
I got to
amazing.
be honest. I'll be fair enough to the folks at America First Legal. They came up with the strategy. They just, they needed me to be the patsy on this. But you want to know the best part of the story, just to show you how kind of interesting life can be? When I wrote the op-ed for the New York Post, the editor came back to me and I'd written that he fired everyone. And Biden went on to fire all these other people. And she said, can you give us some other examples of boards and commissions? So I had a list of them and I'm reading them off to her about random boards and commissions that do this and that for our government. And I said, the Kennedy Center and two others. And she's like, I love those. The people can identify with those. So that's what randomly brought this into the medium, is that op-ed allowed the discussion to occur. It's just funny how sometimes life does work.
Yes.
And there is a bit of sweet revenge right now going, you know what? Say what you will, but had Biden not been petty in the first place, none of this would have happened.
Exactly. I love it too. Yeah.
It's amazing. Guys, I always appreciate you coming on. There's such a great conversation that I have. I love watching your material, your show every morning. And then obviously the clips that you guys put out make me laugh and bring a smile to my face. So thank you for that. Obviously joining us. Guys, as I mentioned, twice a week, I put out my newsletter, SeanSpicer.com. It is free. I always love a good VIP member. So please go and sign up, SeanSpicer.com. We've got a great week headed your way in terms of the guest, breaking down everything going on in the Trump administration and helping you keep up to speed on it. Thanks for tuning in and kicking off your Monday with us. Happy President's Day. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.